I drink high proof all the time. The other employee chiped up, he's not going to drink that. He's going to flip it.
Oh, that's the wrong thing to say. I mean, in that moment, the wrong thing to say to you.
I'm like, really?
Welcome, everyone, to episode 103 of The Mashup, the best bourbon conversation you're going to hear all week long. We are your hosts, Anthony and Kenny. What's going on, big dog?
How you doing, man? Glad to be here.
Yeah, it's nice to have you here. So those of you who probably listened last week, you heard some crazy stuff with my kids, right? So in an effort for me to learn a little bit more about the editing that Steven so masterfully does week to week, and to actually record, I had to record with my kids, which, Kenny, your kids are a little bit older than mine. Could you imagine, you've met my kids, could you imagine me trying to record with them?
No, I'm really surprised you got that done. That was pretty good on your part.
Yeah. Well,
wonderful kids, but it's like, like wrangling cats.
Yeah, wonderful. I like the way you're like, wonderful kids, like I'm going to come over there and get you or something.
I love them to death, you know that. So.
Yeah, so in the end of that episode, I mentioned that we would be sort of figuring out a way to move forward while Steven was traveling. And so as a reminder, Steven is out west for work. He's going to be leaving for extended amounts of time. And I'm going to try to get with him to record when he's in town and maybe some others. But in an effort to maintain that continuity, it was good for me to reach out to some of my friends here in the whiskey community, and that's the person that we have here tonight. So, Mr. Kenny Mills, without further ado, I would like to, just welcome you to the podcast and tell you, and let our listening audience know what your relationship is to whiskey.
Well, it's actually not my first time on the mashup.
It isn't.
I believe I was mentioned about chugging a bottle in Kroger one day.
Yeah. So our astute listeners would know that one. I told a story, gosh, that was a long time ago. And if you guys don't remember, I do have to retell this real quickly. So there was a story where basically you, sir, were inside of Kroger. You don't mind reliving this moment, do you?
I was inside. You go ahead.
Yeah. No, you got to tell it now. We got the man here. Yeah, you were there. Yeah.
I was inside Kroger. Walk in. There's two employees, and you can tell one of the employees' friends were there.
Okay.
The lady behind the counter, I don't know, mid-40s. The other lady looked to be 70s. Her friend looked to be 70s.
Oh, nice. So you got a bunch of old people in there.
Yeah. Well, hey, I'm 48 now. So I don't want to call them too old.
Hey, that's right. Just celebrated a birthday. Happy birthday.
Thank you. That's right. Yeah. That's right. Yesterday. No, day before.
There you go.
But no, so I look behind the counter. I see an Elijah Craig barrel proof up there.
Always a solid pour.
And, that's what I unfortunately rate a lot of bourbons for. If you look at proof and age and how much it costs, that's kind of a benchmark of mine. But
it's a good one to have, yeah.
Good benchmark. So I tried it. I haven't had that. I can't remember what it was. I guess it would have been. Was it B522 back then, or was it even A122? It's been a while.
I have to go back and look and see when I told that story, because it was pretty close to when this happened.
But I didn't have that particular batch yet, so I'm like, oh hey, can I grab one of those? And so the lady behind the counter pulls it down. I'm getting it, and the other employee's friend's like, well, what kind of proof is that? I'm like, oh, it's 120 something. He's like, oh, that's hot. And he's like, can you drink that? I'm like, yeah. So we drink high proof all the time.
Yeah.
And right as I said, yes, we can. I drink high proof all the time. The other employee chiped up, he's not going to drink that. He's going to flip it.
Oh, that's the wrong thing to say. I mean, in that moment, the wrong thing to say to you.
I'm like, really? I was like, okay.
Oh, jeez.
So I have the lady ring it up. She puts it in my bag. I pull it out. I stare right at the lady, rip the plastic off, pop the cork right in front of her, and take a big, huge chug inside of Kroger right there. And she's like, you can't do that. I'm like, well, you shouldn't have called me out,
And you know what? I remember when I told that story, and hearing it from you is even better. But I mean, that's sort of like typical of, I'm not, trying to say that we're all the same in this thing, but I don't know if I'd have the balls to do that like you did. But I mean, that's the greatest story, because it just shows like people are worried about flipping and stuff, and you're like, no, we're drinking whiskey,
Yeah. Your listeners, I'm sure they're all over, but I don't know how their liquor stores are here, but here, a lot of bottles get held back for friends and repeat customers and all that.
Yeah.
Well, in that same Kroger now, the lady that was working the counter loved what I did. So I've actually got a few bottles since then.
A relationship by, engaging in small talk and different things. No, maybe you just got to open your bottle right then and there and chug it.
That's right.
That might be the way to do it. Oh, man. Well, I love that story. And, you and I have been friends quite a while now, but I think that our listening audience might like to know a little bit about, what your experience is with bourbon. Like if I know that we've only actually had one other guest host other than myself, Stephen, or Michael on this podcast, and that was Mosik.
Another buddy of ours,
yeah,
right?
you know Mosik. And
Mosik and I would be opposite.
Yeah.
As in, like, I'm a total noob.
Yeah.
And he is a longtime bourbon guy. So it's, we are opposite that way, but we're also the same, and we just love whiskey.
Yeah, exactly. And
love
I think
the community, love the spirit.
The whiskey, the community, that's a big thing. And I know he talked a lot about the fact that he had a lot of experience picking barrels. And I think both of you guys combined have more experience than I ever will picking barrels. But I may have. I don't know if I've tried more whiskeys. I won't go toe-to-toe with you on that one. But we've all gotten together and tried a lot of whiskeys. And we really do just love that camaraderie and community that comes with it. And so I enjoy all the times I've got to share some nice pours with you over at your place and things like that.
Oh, definitely. And I mean, as far as me, you said, quick background, I honestly did not take my first sip of whiskey until January of 2020.
That's amazing.
Nothing to do with COVID. I mean, that was even just before that, just literally January 2020. What had happened, though, the previous fall, my youngest son started getting into bourbon a little bit.
Okay.
And my wife kind of has always enjoyed bourbon. So I started buying bourbon. Didn't drink it.
Yep.
I would nose it, but never drink it. Bought a lot of bottles for them. Started blinding them, having them, remove the label, remove the price tag.
I love the fact it's like a family affair.
Oh, yeah. It's we're all just a bunch of degenerates. But anyway, so no. And so, and just be honest with you, first at least 2 months of drinking, 3 months, I'm like, what's it taste like? Alcohol. Alcohol. It's hot. It's alcohol. It's ethanol. It's alcohol.
I got a little ethanol pop.
And then slowly, I started tasting different things and was able to differentiate, bottles and pick small notes out. I'm still not, great at that, but differentiate even, different distilleries and, things of that nature. But if anybody knows me, when I go do something, I usually go hard. So although I'm pretty new, I've jumped in completely. So.
Got you a nice collection. Well, I'm happy to be mixing it up with you here tonight and chatting with you about this bottle that we're going to talk about. So Kenny, I know that you're also a listener of our podcast, and we often acknowledge our audience through shout outs. And so this week we have a shout out that comes to us from W. Haney 72. And this review was left for us on Apple Podcasts about a month and 2 weeks ago. And I feel bad that we're just getting to it now. But the title of the review is Thank You. And so W. Haney says, just want to thank you guys for your content. I've been into bourbon for almost 3 years and my palate is not very sophisticated. Sounds familiar to where somebody started. And absolutely love the way you guys review whiskey. He said, keep it up, fellas. And he signed it Coach Haney. So we got a coach out there that's listening to our podcast. And so we really appreciate that review. And we'd like you to keep them coming. So if you'd like a shout out, just leave us a review on Apple Podcasts or Facebook, and we'll give you a shout out the next time we record. So Kenny, tonight we got a really interesting bottle. We got a bottle of Old Louisville straight bourbon whiskey.
Yeah, Old Louisville straight bourbon whiskey from the Old Louisville Whiskey Company in Louisville, Kentucky. This was bottled in 2023. It is a 10-year and 1 month. It's actually a discontinued mash bill from MGP. It's a 51% corn and 49% malted barley.
Oh, that's interesting.
MSRP is about $179. Say it's discontinued. You can still buy that mash bill from them, but you have to buy the whole 250 barrels roughly that their fermenter will make. So,
really? So let's back up on that real quickly before we talk about this bottle. So you're saying that if I cruising around looking for this particular mash bill right now, like in a well-aged stock, I probably wouldn't be able to find it, is what you're saying.
I don't think you'll find any at all.
Okay.
When they bought these barrels up, after talking to the owner of Old Louisville, most people that bought that particular mash in those barrels, they bottled them at 4, 5, 6 years old.
Okay.
Or they finished them in something else and didn't let them mature.
I got you.
So I am pretty positive you're not going to find a well-aged mash bill like that.
Gotcha. And so those of you guys know this is produced at the factory at MGP in Indiana, and they will produce a lot of different mash bills if you ask them to make them. But what Kenny said is you're gonna be into them for 250 barrels
Yeah.
if you get this made today, which is something that I don't think I could take on. How about you?
No, not at all.
This bottle is nothing super unique in terms of the shape, right? So the shape is just a wine-looking bottle, but I guess you can talk a little bit about this label and the cork and this ultra special sticker that we have on this. So I don't know if we mentioned this when we were going through the specs, but this is actually a single barrel selection, which you'll talk about here in a moment. But tell me what you think about this. You've seen a lot of whiskey bottles and a lot of bourbon bottles. What do you think about this one in particular? Like, what stands out to you? What do you like about it?
Stands out to me the actual cross. If you look at how it's crossed, like the X, how he has those two colors.
So the label, yeah, I see what you mean. It's almost like it does.
So the label kind of stands out like that. The piece at the bottom comes up, meets it at the angle. It is a very unique looking label.
Yeah, I think
whoever designed it did a very good job for them, or they did, or whoever worked on.
Yeah, I think so. And I mean, they're a very small, they're a startup for all intents and purposes, right? I mean, it's a very small outfit right now.
Yeah.
And they're doing a great job. And so I don't know, do you know if they have distribution for these bottles outside of Kentucky right now?
I would need to ask Amine if it's outside of Kentucky.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure he is in a few other states.
Okay.
Take Your Pick Liquors
Okay.
website.
All right.
And I think they're out of D.C.
Okay.
I believe they have some of their product.
Okay.
So definitely in D.C. And I thought he was in a couple other states.
So there are ways to access this, but it's always important when we talk about the bottle. We're trying to tell you guys out there that, like, these are things to look for, especially with the new company. And so it might look like to most generic looking wine bottle, but I mean, that's just because a lot of people are using this bottle shape, but the actual design, the cork with this little wooden topper on here is actually very nice. And you mentioned something interesting. What do you think this looks like?
Looks like a E.H. Taylor bottle to me.
Yeah, you know what? Now that you mention it, it really does. But if we go through all the different things that we could potentially, say about it, the one thing that's most unique is you had mentioned earlier that when you selected this, and so maybe we can kind of finish talking about the bottle by letting you explain a little bit about the fact that there is a very unique barrel pick sticker on this bottle that is that's probably pretty close to your heart, huh?
It is. So I have done a lot of barrel picks. Been on barrel pick teams for other places, other restaurant stores, clubs, blah, blah, blah. But this is the first one that was my own pick I initiated, that I was able to buy the barrel.
Okay.
So I did create a little sticker on there myself, and a guy named Mike Harris and Mosick, who's been on other guests. We actually went and did the pick. So have a little sticker with all three of us on there, kind of like a...
Yeah, and I'm a little bit jealous because I wish that I was available, because I would have totally been there. And
you were invited.
Yes, I was invited, but but my that darn academic work schedule just wouldn't allow me to do it.
Not that we would have included your vote, but anyway.
That's another story, right? This, and Kenny won't come out and say it, but he likes sometimes to make me I'm the last person in the room to know if he's serious or not at times, and so that runs right up against it. So I guess I just want to kind of talk quickly before we talk more about how you guys selected this barrel. I don't know a whole lot about the Old Louisville Whiskey Company. I almost wanted to call them a distillery, but they're not really a distillery. And so I visited their website to kind of gather a little bit of information. And one thing that I was taken by was the fact that they really sell you on this idea that they're a family-owned business, because they are. Amine, who we've mentioned, and his wife Beth, they are the proprietors of this particular brand, and basically they've been in the liquor business. Is that correct, Kenny? They've been in the liquor business before. They had liquor stores and things like that.
Yes. He actually is an engineer. He worked at Brown Foreman even.
Okay.
And he owned Red Castle Liquor. I believe he had 2 locations maybe in Louisville.
Okay.
And so he started buying some barrels. I think he started with 1 barrel, 2 barrel, 3 barrels, and just slowly bought some barrels. And then he decided to go all in once he got to the point where he had enough barrels. And I guess he designed his bottle and got a lot of the actual machinery needed.
Okay.
So he sold his liquor stores to create some capital and then go all in.
And see, that's awesome. So I love to hear that, because, there's a lot of people doing this now, right? Sourcing barrels. We've talked on this podcast, especially, we've talked a lot about your companies all over the place that are sourcing just, I would call, run-of-the-mill 4 and 5 year old MGP. And I mean, that's a great way to start a brand. We've talked about some fantastic whiskeys that we've tasted that we really like. All in all, like, that's what makes Amine different here, right? So he has all these chops that you talked about, the experience, owning liquor stores, and now he's kind of poured his heart and soul into this family-owned business where they really pride themselves on bottling special whiskeys. And when I say special whiskeys, I think that on their website they say nothing younger than 7 years.
That's it. That's what I say. Yeah, it's 7-8 years minimum, but he won't bottle anything less than that. He just knows it takes time.
Yeah, and that's really unique. I always like to support up-and-coming businesses, and I also like to see when they're doing unique things, right? And so I try to think about other companies we talked about, especially out of Louisville, a couple episodes back where we reviewed a Buzzard's Roost cigar rye, and that guy, if I remember correctly, was a restaurant owner, had done a lot of barrel picks and things like that, and now they parlayed to where I've seen that they're opening recently now somewhere, a location in downtown Louisville. So that's pretty cool. Rather than I get carried away here talking about the brand and ask you more about this barrel pick selection that you did.
Yeah, so that was very interesting. You mentioned he had some other products he came out with. So last year I was introduced to his products. He had a rye that he came out with. You mentioned the rye.
Yep.
It was really, really unique. It's actually 51% rye.
Okay.
49% malted barley.
Oh, that's a malted barley rye?
So this is 51 corn, 49 malted barley.
Oh, man, I had no idea.
So that rye is 51 rye, 49 malted barley. Mm-hmm. It is so creamy, so unique. It's really amazing. And it's a lot softer. You don't get that ethanol pop on it. You don't get that burn on it.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was the first thing I had of his. Then he released the bourbon, grabbed some of their bourbons. And then how we actually got to do the pick was this last Christmas, he released a 16-year American whiskey, 148 proof.
I remember hearing about that.
Released it on his website. Got on there. I bought several of them. But I mean, I'm in Lexington. There's in Louisville. I work retail, busy time of the year.
Yeah.
So I messaged him, said, hey, I'll come down when I can. Just hold them for me. So he has no problem. He was holding them for me. Was going to plan to go down there. Didn't work out. Another time. So literally April
Okay.
comes,
that long.
That long.
And he's still holding the product.
He's still holding the product.
Hell of a guy.
I paid though.
Yeah.
So
okay.
I already paid up front. I paid up front.
There you go. Okay.
But it works out. So we go down. But he's said, hey, because I also offered to just have some friends of mine come pick my bottles up.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, well, I'd rather you come down. That way we can thieve from the barrels and sip and have a good day. And I'm like, well, okay, I'll take you up on that, brother.
That sounds like a good time to me.
Yes.
Anybody wants to call and tell me to do that, sure, invite me. I'll be there.
No doubt. So that's how. So the pick initiated by, we go down there just to pick up my bottles. I'm going to thieve a little bit.
Yep.
So he's got, I think, 7 barrels that he kind of has laid out for people that come do little tours and tastings and with them. So we thieve from the barrel. I believe it was a French oak finished one. Then we had another one that was a Colombian oak finish. And then
that's a new thing, right? Is there a lot of Colombian oak is a newer thing that they're doing now?
So Colombian oak, there was a barrel shortage.
Sorry to interrupt.
No. There was a barrel shortage. How many years ago? 5 years, 7 years, 8 years ago. Something to do with the storms and the way something happened, or a fire or something, whatever it was. He told me, but once again, it was fuzzy when I was down there.
Yeah.
But he told me about all that. So there's actually tons of Colombian oak out there.
Okay.
But a lot of people barreled them quickly, or they finished them in something else, and blah blah blah. So we tried one of those. It was very unique as well. And I say unique in a good way, though, for his. But then the
Not
next...
Amburana unique, right?
French, that's just like Cinnamon Toast Crunch.
I know, everyone's doing Amburana right now. We had never done one on the podcast. We're going to have to.
It is not like that. Okay. No. It still tastes like a traditional bourbon.
But I'm a bad co-host here, and I was interrupting you again. But you said we tasted another one, and
I did not know what he gave me. I wasn't paying attention enough because I was just looking around the place.
Yep.
I go to taste it, and I literally stopped in my tracks. I said, whoa. I look at my wife, I'm like, what is this?
Yeah.
Take another sip, and I'm like, holy crap. And so I interrupt him, like, stop. I apologize. What is this?
Yeah.
And he just kind of laughs and chuckles. And I'm like, seriously? He's like, this is a 9-year MGP, 51% corn, 49% malted barley.
Yeah.
And I'm like, holy wow. So I literally stop. I go off to the side, get my cell phone.
Yeah.
I call a friend of mine talking about, hey, we need to do this barrel pick.
Nice.
We got to do this barrel pick. I was like, you got to buy this.
Yeah.
You don't understand how good this is. You know, I was like, we have to do this. It is so amazing. And so I came back to him and I was like, so how does one kind of get a barrel pick of
Hey,
this?
can I just walk out of here? Can you put this in a bag for me and I can walk out?
Right, no doubt. And it just happened that way. And he is an amazing guy. He really opened up and let us do it.
Oh, that's awesome.
But I knew I wanted to make it special, so I did invite you. I invited a couple other friends because I wanted to actually do a true pick process.
Yeah.
Because he had 4 barrels of it left. Mm-hmm. So, and that's the thing too. Anybody listening in, he does have a 9-year, 9-month.
Okay.
Of the same mash bill, I believe, a couple left in his gift shop.
Okay.
But that was not one of the 4 that we picked from.
I gotcha. Well, now that you're talking about this, and so here's the dichotomy, right? So Kenny's got the experience. I don't, because this is the first time I'm getting to nose this and taste tonight. So let's get to nosing it and then continue talking about how you got this here tonight.
Okay.
So let's go for that first nosing.
All right.
So,
dark fruit, bro. Sweet dark fruit.
Yeah, it's very sweet. And what's interesting is I pick up a little bit of the malted grains. And when I say malted grains, those of you that are used to, like I am, sipping bourbon and rye, when you're nosing this, you can tell right away that you're not dealing with the traditional mash bill, if you will.
I mean, you pour a great bourbon. I mean, it can be a GTS, it can be a Parker's, a William Heaven Hill.
Yeah.
And when you nose it, you are still going to get ethanol on your nose.
Absolutely.
I mean, you 100%, you have to kind of puff the glass with your nose to get the ethanol out of there and then try to smell just to get rid. This has no ethanol. I mean, this is just.
Yeah. It's if there's any for me, and again, you have to yield to me a little bit since I'm I'm tiny bit more objective on this, is there's a very subtle, because it is a little proofy, right? It's a very subtle ethanol, but it fades so quickly. And it's like you said, it's a lot of dark fruit, and the grain sweetness is almost, to me, like a bourbon, a little bit of caramel sweetness, almost a little bit of, at least on the nose, it kind of leans a little bit like butterscotch a little bit.
Yeah, no, I agree. And the sweetness is a little bit maybe like the sweetness off your milk left after you get a little bit of milk left after you eat some cereal or something. It's just that little bit of a.
Oh, that's a great
because it is.
Yeah.
Yeah,
so that's a great descriptor. So awesome. Well, as we're nosing here, I'm getting more excited to taste this, and I want to ask you a little about. So you select this barrel now. You go through this process of selecting it.
Yeah.
And you. Yeah, go ahead.
No,
Sorry. No. Well, I was just wondering, so when you taste it initially. Then you call up your buddies. Then you try to get the pick group together to go back to taste. When you went back to taste, how many did you taste to pick? And did you pick the original one that you had first tasted?
Yeah. So he had 4 barrels pulled out for us.
Okay.
And at this time, they were 9-year, 11-month, and 2 weeks.
Okay.
So
they're on the cusp of 10 years.
Right. So we did our pick, and we intentionally waited 3 or 4 weeks, I think 4 weeks, just to make it, or 5 weeks, just to be over, this ended up being 10 years, 1 month. We just wanted to be able to put 10 on the label,
Yeah.
But we tasted 4 that day. As we're nosing through, and there's 3 of us, nosing through, tasting through. The one I initially picked was barrel number 3 of that day.
Okay.
Barrel number 2, that particular day on those blinds was the 4th place clearly. But barrel 3 was my favorite. Barrel 4 was somebody else's favorite. Barrel 3 was the other guy's favorite. So 2 of us were on 3.
2 out of 3.
1 was on 4. Barrel 1 was definitely a 3rd place, but it was really so good and so close to.
Yeah.
So as with any pick, we go ahead and we kind of leave the area.
Yep.
And get Amine to blind us. So we come back.
Yeah.
And once he reblinded us, it was unanimous. We all picked the same one, which was barrel 3.
Oh, that's awesome.
So, and I've done the opposite of that. I've been on picks where I'm like, this is my favorite. This is my favorite. This is my favorite.
Yep.
And we're down to 2 or 3 that will blind out of the 7 or 8, and we come back and I literally flip. But it's just, you just taking any kind of When you blind, though, you are taking all the prejudices out of the.
And one thing I think is unique about this too is the fact that you guys are able to be tasting this and bottling it at barrel strength. A lot of people that go on picks, you might get to taste something that's 120 proof, and they say, well, whatever you're going to get's 90, right? And so you can try to figure out how to proof it down. And some places give you a little more direction than others, but to be tasting right out of the barrel and kind of knowing what you get, probably got to be a great experience. I mean, it's
huge because you actually get to know what the product is.
Yeah.
I I went on a pick a while back. There's 6 of us went, and we were able to taste it at barrel strength. And this particular distillery, when they bottle it, it's at 90.4 proof.
Yeah.
So we all had a clear winner, like this is the best, this is amazing, because we all tasted at barrel strength. And then they give you the water, they add it, and they're like, okay, now this is 90 proof. And we literally said, doesn't matter, y'all pick whatever you want. Yeah. Literally, they all tasted the same thing. So this is amazing. Yeah.
We put the water in and blended all of the flavor out.
Oh, so bad. So bad.
Speaking of tasting, let's go for our first taste here.
All right, here we go.
Oh my God,
bro! I had no intention at all, zero, of doing a barrel pick, buying a barrel.
Yeah,
none. We were thieving from barrels, going to drink for free, pick up my bottles. Once I tasted this, it literally stopped me in my tracks.
Yeah, this is, to say that this is unique is more than unique. So, on this particular, in our journey of whiskey, between myself and Steven and Michael and others that we've tasted with and talked with, this is, having a malt content. The only other thing I can think of that we drank a lot of was the Balcones single malt, which was a 99% malt, I think, or 100% malt from Texas.
100%.
Yeah, 100%. That was all over the place. Like, it had a lot of good flavor and it was all over the place. This is like drinking like a premium bourbon. So what are like some of your predominant things that you're picking up out of it?
I'm going to tell you, I'm actually just still holding on to this finish. So you need to look back at the tape and see when we took the drink until like right about now, and I'm still tasting it. The finish is that long.
Oh yeah.
It is wild, and it's still going. I do get dark fruit. I always thought caramel, but now you said butterscotch. I don't know. I also think more of a caramel on the palate though. But and that's the thing with me. I am, like I said, I've only been sipping bourbon over 3 years. I do a decent job at picking out distilleries, or if you put 10 bourbons in front of me blind, I can usually pick out 8 of the 9 of the 10 correctly. Yeah. But I'm still not great on descriptors. So just be honest with you up front, straight up.
Yeah. And that's fine.
Dark fruit, definitely dark fruit. A little bit of cherry. And definitely get some actual, some good caramel. But the thing is, like you said, it's not all over the place. It's just very well rounded, and it is a very good viscous mouthfeel.
Wow, this is a treat. I'm not gonna lie, and one thing I can say. Okay, so I lied a little bit, and I do remember this now. So I came over here probably after you guys had just finished the pick, which was probably how many weeks before it was bottled? Maybe 4?
5 weeks.
5 probably. Weeks. And I remember you blinded me with something. It's all coming back to me now.
I forgot about that. Yeah.
So you blinded me with this right when it was 9, just before it was 10 years old.
I forgot about that.
And I tasted it, and I think that particular evening I told you that I was just okay on it.
Bro, no, same way. It's going to sound crazy, and it has nothing to do with like getting the 10-year mark. Yeah. But something happened where it literally a little bit less ethanol pop and a little bit sweeter just in that extra 5 weeks.
And so when people hear malt, they automatically think Scotch because Scotch is malt. Nothing like that at all.
Zero.
And on my 3rd sip here now, I'm actually tasting strawberry, which is insane. Maybe, I did have a chicken shawarma for dinner tonight, but this is like, you said dark fruit. Now I'm picking out some of the lighter things. Lighter fruit. That's a lighter fruit, red fruit, but it's red fruit for sure. And for me, when I taste like a bourbon that I like a lot, it usually does have to hit that dark cherry. This is not medicinal, and it's just got like a really nice finish. The aftertaste or the taste or the palate of is just great. It just it's really nice, man.
Yeah. So here's this is 114 proof. It tastes like a 90 proof to me.
It really does.
But not in a watery way. It's a full, bold flavored, but it just, I guess I'm referring to more of the ethanol pop, less of the tannins, things like that.
Yeah, no, there's talking about 10-year-old whiskey of any sort that doesn't really show any of the oak. That's what's really, I'm not getting a lot of oak, right?
Right.
And people that are oak averse or don't like tannins, and I do like oak, but I don't miss it at all in this. I mean, it's just, it's almost like somehow or another it got absorbed in there and something else happened. It transformed into something else that was delicious. So yeah.
Well, and that's a thing. And this is where y'all are going to, honestly, you're going to see some big things, in my opinion, coming from Old Louisville. Because I'll just be honest with you, when I first, learned about them, it's a new startup distillery, sourcing MGP. There's hundreds of those.
Exactly.
Hundreds.
Yeah, I said it earlier. Like, what's going to make you different?
What's going to make you
cares?
different?
Yeah, exactly.
And I'll just be honest with you, y'all are going to see some crazy, crazy, amazing things coming from Old Louisville. Amine worked at Brown Foreman.
Yeah.
He's an engineer.
Yeah.
I nerded out when I was down there about all the stuff. It was absolutely amazing. He actually just bottled his own first, he actually had White Dog from MGP.
Okay.
But he just barreled it, his own stuff for the first time last week.
Oh, really?
So 8-9 years from now, holy cow,
wow, watch out. Exactly.
Because what he did, is it okay to talk about that?
Yeah.
No? I know we're branching off of that. Is that okay?
No, that's perfect.
Okay, so his barrels, which there's a big barrel shortage again, but the barrels he got are 12-month seasoned.
Oh, interesting.
Most barrels they use at these major distilleries are 3-month.
Yep.
They're green tasting. You get all the tannins, and I mean, it draws you up. It's so sharp. It's just harsh.
I've talked about that grassy note and everything else you get when you get that young. Yeah.
So he did a Char 3 with toasted heads.
Okay.
So it's Char 3 barreling with toasted heads.
Okay.
And he also he actually comes up here to Highbridge. Gets limestone water.
Oh, nice.
He took that White Dog and he went in at 100 proof, just like the old Dusties did.
Oh man!
So
you had Woodford put out a historic barrel entry proof limited release this year, right? And I'm not trying to say that to make fun of them. I'm just saying that like when you got Amine on a much smaller level doing stuff like that and doing it at that proof, that's probably going to be something special.
Special.
Yeah.
So special. And he did the 36% rye mash bill from MGP. So it's going to be very unique and special.
That's awesome. And so, I mean, I hope that the audience knows where we're going here, but, I think we should just jump right into it here. So, Kenny, would you pass, try, or buy on your own barrel pick selection from the Old Louisville distillery?
I guess I would give it a buy.
I knew that was going to be anticlimactic. I was going to say, like, would you really pick a barrel and then say I regretted it or not buy it? And so for me, here's what I'm going to say. I like to go on these long sort of tirades about why I would pass, try, or buy on something. This is solidly going to be a buy for me, not because I'm sitting across the table from you, but when I first... I trust you, right? Because we've tasted a lot together. But there are times where we're tasting whiskey and you say you like something and I look at you and I'm like, are you crazy? Like, we all do that, right? We all have those things. And so for this, what really has sort of hit it out of the park for me, because a lot of you guys have heard us say things about being price conscious. This isn't exactly cheap, right? It's not a cheap bottle. But in today's market, when you're going to be paying $100 to $200 for a lot of these limited releases that you don't know a lot about, this presents you with something unique and something that you're actually going to enjoy. You're not going to regret it, right? And so for me, that's what solidifies the buy, because I have been torched by, I think the worst bottle I ever got torched by, and I won't say what the name of it was, but it was a $330 bottle. And I bought it because I heard it was good. And I opened it and, boy, I won't say what I did with that $330 bottle, but it was very, very disappointing. And so as we enter this era where things cost more and you're looking for something unique, this is going to deliver both, right? It's going to cost more, but it's going to be money well spent, because it's going to be familiar to you from things that you've tasted before, but it's also going to be unique to a point where you're like, dang, I got bourbon with a higher malt content.
Yeah, and if any of your listeners are starting to look out, there's more and more higher malted type stuff being released as well.
Yeah, and speaking on that, I was hoping that will you join me for another episode, you think, to possibly talk for some more malt in the future?
Oh, yeah, definitely, man. I appreciate being here.
Yeah, it might even be something like me calling you and saying, hey, can we do something next week?
Cool, brother.
We can put you on retainer. And with that, thanks for listening to this week's edition. Please like and follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at The Mashup KY. Also, let us know your thoughts on this bottle in the comments section. Until next time, keep it neat.